Coming up next, we have a special countdown that proves that rock and roll never dies. You know, as the 80s were coming to an end, today's songs that we're going to count down, they didn't ever become official hits on the charts at all. I'm talking about songs like the rock anthem that tops our countdown today. Can you guess what it is? It didn't even make the Hot 100 charts, but it now has over 6 billion plays and has outperformed every number one hit from the year that it came from. In fact, it has 4 times as many streams and plays as any hit from that year, and it started out as a throwaway guitar exercise. It was an accident. Plus, the song that a frontman had been recording with his band that was a fast song, he was really comfortable with it. Then he had to leave the studio for a few days, and while he was gone, the band took that fast song, and they thought it would sound cool slowed down. They slowed the tempo down to a crawl. When he got back, he was livid, but then he started singing it, and the song became a classic. And then there's the band who had a big hit and a future that looked really bright. But their frontman threw it all away when he took their next album and their next 35 songs and destroyed the only master tape that exists. Plus the famous indie band who was climbing the charts and making a name for themselves, then they just up and disappeared for 30 years. And they're still missing in action. We're going to find out who it is and count these songs down coming up next. Hey, music junkies, Professor Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember the first time you played the Atari, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. What was the first game that you ever played? I think I played Pitfall was mine. Let me know in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure to like, comment, and share on this whole thing so we can keep this channel going. It's really important. All right, we're about to wrap up our non-hits countdown. We got a special episode today going to the end of the 80s when everything seemed possible. We're starting off our top 10 non-hits of 1990. Wasn't quite the 90s yet. At number 10, we got a twofer. We're turning the spotlight on 2 songs from a movie soundtrack. Everybody Knows by Concrete Blonde and Wave of Mutilation by the Pixies from Pump Up the Volume, the Christian Slater movie.
You out there? You listening?
Now, everybody knows that, of course, originated from Leonard Cohen's pen and voice, but it found its fiercest afterlife in Concrete Blonde's blistering cover.
Everybody knows.
Johnette Napolitano's gravelly, hard-on sleeve delivery turned the song into like a cigarette smoke confession. A perfect match for the mood that Concrete Blonde was exuding as they rode the peak of their own momentum, right in the middle of releasing music like the fan favorite Joey. Of course, Everybody Knows was recorded expressly for the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack, and it really anchored the film's closing credits with a dark, rebellious vibe. And Johnette, the way she sings it, she brings a whole new level of cool to it.
Knows that the dice are loaded. Everybody rolls with it.
Now, the movie's plot, of course, entailed a pirate radio DJ tearing down the polished facades of high school authority. Everybody Knows was the film's thematic anthem for sure. I kind of describe it as a nocturnal kiss-off to hypocrisy and a vote for authenticity in a world where the dice felt loaded and good guys always seemed to lose.
Rich get rich, that's how it goes.
This song, it got me through a lot. Concrete Blonde's cover, it upended expectations. It went to number 20 on the modern rock chart, turning a Leonard Cohen standard into a Gen X manifesto and becoming a surprising rival to Concrete Blonde's own material at the height of their popularity. Although the song had significant airplay on modern rock radio, it didn't cross over. It actually failed to make the Billboard Hot 100, but man, such a powerful song. I'll link to it below. Another powerful non-hit from 1990 that was a vital part of the Pump Up the Volume soundtrack is Wave of Mutilation by the Pixies. This is a perfect song. Wave of Mutilation, written by Pixies frontman Black Francis, whose real name is Charles Thompson, that grew from a chilling newspaper expose about, get this, Japanese businessmen who, after an epic business fail, committed a murder-suicide by ferrying their families off a pier into the sea. True story. Unfortunately, it's not a myth. These tragic incidents are frequently linked to what's called the Shinju phenomenon. You can look that up. This is where bankrupt individuals feel that death is their only option, sometimes forcing their families to join them to avoid leaving them in personal and financial misery. In a genius way, Pixies' song defies that grim storyline with a surf rock shimmer, turning sorrow into a surreal fairy tale of resilience.
You think I'm dead, but I said away.
And this song, it's perfect. It's like a New Wave Beach Boys track. Epic, ethereal, just very moving. Rather than dwelling on despair, Black Francis, he frames a triumphant, almost cinematic departure. A driver who sails away into the unknown as if the sea itself were a release valve rather than a tragic ending. Black Francis explained the title of the song as a metaphor. A wave, like a force of nature, exerting overwhelming pressure, much as the reported events weigh on the imagination. In this light, the track becomes less about tragedy and more about that unstoppable pull of fate, a voyage powered by sound rather than sorrow. I loved how the song provoked all kinds of thoughts and subplots, and it really worked on the soundtrack. All right, coming in at number 9 on our non-hits countdown, I got one of my favorite singers ever, Harriet. Often labeled besides the Smiths for their gauzy guitar lines and aching melodies, the Sundays, they stood out as a female-led counterpoint that sharpened that same melancholy. On tracks like Here's Where the Story Ends, that melodic sensibility is a narration, guiding us through a room where the air feels both heavy yet hopeful. Here's Where the Story Ends. I gotta tell you, it stirs up a lot of different emotions in me. It creates a feeling of quiet negotiation between endings and new beginnings in my life. It mixes a sense of resignation with hope after what lead singer Harriet Wheeler called a souvenir of a terrible year.
It's that little souvenir of a terrible year.
The closing of one chapter, really just the opening of another door. And 36 years after the song's release, that line, "I never should have said the books that you read were all I loved you for." Man, that sticks in me like a memory that I can't and frankly don't want to shake. It's a lyric that's just as profound today as it was back in 1990 from one of the most underappreciated bands of the rock era. Here's Where the Story Ends. It was a #1 track on the modern rock chart, but it didn't crack the Billboard Hot 100. What was wrong with this? Really, the Sundays managed to stay out of the limelight altogether. I mean, they only released 3 studio albums altogether. But after they broke up in 1997, Harriet Wheeler and Dave Gahan, who co-wrote Here's Where the Story Ends, they abruptly left the music scene to start a family, to raise a family. In 2014, Harriet and David teased about a reunion, but it never happened. I've tried to track them down for an interview, and I mean, they've disappeared 30 years ago, and they're still gone. It's insane. So much talent. All right, our next non-hit in 1990 is one that is widely misinterpreted as being a lot more dangerous than it really is. Talking about There She Goes by The Laws at number 8. Now, There She Goes is always hung between fact and fiction, with whispers that it's a song inspired by the Velvet Underground about heroin. I think it's the chorus that's caused those rumors. There she blows again, pulsing through my veins, and I just can't contain this feeling that remains. However, even inside the band, the take isn't so black and white. John Byrne once framed it as just a love song about a girl you like, but you just never talk to, nudging us to hear the music as an unspoken connection. Now, There She Goes, it has that cool signature riff. There She Goes, that came with a mixed blessing though. Actually, in 2021, Mike Badger noted that the song's fame and ongoing royalties have given this author, lead singer Lee Mavers, a strange kind of steadiness. Money that really let him coast, and really, by coasting, it stops him from taking any risks. A luxury that can keep him detached from releasing new music and helping move forward. The very thing that made the track such a touchstone also shielded the artist from moving forward. There She Goes ended up as the only notable song released by The Laws. Now, Although it was a number 2 track on the modern rock chart, the single stalled at number 49 on the Billboard Hot 100. Man, the loss could have been so much bigger. But Lee Mavers actually destroyed the only master of their next couple albums. He threw away 35 songs. Actually, that's enough for 3 albums. All right, like I said, there's some debate on whether There She Goes is a drug song, but there is no doubt that the next track on our spotlight of non-hits of 1990 is indeed about beating smack addiction. The song, Ball and Chain by Social Distortion at number 7. Social D leader Mike Ness calls Ball and Chain a hard luck story, a plea for help he wrote as he was coming back from a serious drug addiction. The Ball and Chain line, that isn't about a wife, it's about the weight of addiction and self-destructive behavior. Musically, Ball and Chain marks the shift from pure punk to a cowpunk vibe for Social D. Slower, rougher, more soulful feel than their earlier, faster stuff. Its appeal goes beyond specifics, though. The song's ambiguity, it lets listeners apply it to their own personal challenges. Now, it became a comeback track featured on the band's 1990 self-titled album to help push them back into the spotlight after a turbulent period caused by Mike Ness's addiction. And man, I had a chance to talk to Mike Ness. Here's what he told me about it.
It was very retrospective, now I'm clean a few years. And, it was like the Ball and Chain was my addiction and stopping me from doing the things in life that I wanted to do. And when you think about it, the song kind of is really like a prayer. It's about someone who just, still trying to kind of find themselves.
Hey, we're saluting non-hits from 1990. Wasn't quite the 90s yet, still kind of stuck in the 80s. These are songs that didn't make the top 40 to qualify as a hit from a music industry standard, of course, but they deserve recognition for their artistic merit and distinction, and most of the time they are better than the actual number ones from that year, including this year. Let me mention today's sponsor. Did you know that the average employer has to sift through around 250 resumes for just one job? That's like listening to 1,000 demo tapes just to find one band worth signing. Well, if you're hiring, here's the good news. You can review those resumes faster with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter has a new feature that instantly shows you the most interested qualified candidates first. And today, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/rock. ZipRecruiter's matching tech finds the right people fast. And with that new feature, candidates who are qualified and actually want the job rise right to the top. And even better, they can tell you in their own words why they're interested. No wonder ZipRecruiter is the number 1 rated hiring site on G2. Cut through the standard and get to the standouts with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/rock. That's ZipRecruiter.com/rock. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Coming in at number 6, no act sounded like them. They might be giants with Birdhouse in Your Soul.
Make a little birdhouse in your soul, not to put too fine a point on it. Say I think.
TMBG's clever mix of highbrow wordplay and eccentricity was unlike any other band. Their unorthodox style was best on display on the non-hit Birdhouse in Your Soul. Okay, try to imagine the narrator as a tiny electric nightlight, keeping the room cozy and safe, a blue canary that glows for the night.
Blue canary at the end of the light switch, who watches over you? Make a little birdhouse.
Now, the lyrics of Birdhouse in Your Soul, they were mostly improvised filler, which is why you get quirky lines like the Longine Symphonette. They might be giants. Accordion and keyboard player John Linnell threw it in because, it rhymes with infinite.
My star is infinite, like the largest symphony. It doesn't.
John referred to his writing as stand-in dummy lyrics. The blue canary that John sings about is the Birdhouse in Your Soul, a safe, comforting space created by the nightlight. Musically, John Linnell drew from pop influences, from 60s tunes, like Son of a Preacher Man by Dusty Springfield.
Only boy who could ever reach me was the son of a preacher man.
And the Lovin' Spoonful Summer in the City when he composed the arrangement for Birdhouse in Your Soul.
Cool town, meeting in the city, dressed so fine and looking so pretty. Cool town.
Working alongside his bandmate John Flansburgh, the duo that made up They Might Be Giants were often called the Two Johns for obvious reasons. They Might Be Giants, though, that's a nod to the 1971 George C. Scott film.
All in glorious Technicolor.
They might be giants.
The Johns, they actually swore they'd never reveal their original band name because it was just so bad. They've never shared that. Their breakout, that didn't come from a memorable live performance or a song they released out of the blue. It came from a dial-a-song answering machine service that they started in the 80s. The service became so popular in the 80s, when answering machines really took off, it drew more than 100 calls a day, functioning as an early direct-to-fan marketing tool, sort of an internet-style precursor. As it turned out, the Might Be Giants had their biggest success in 1990 with their album Flood. That one sold over 1 million copies, led by Birdhouse in Your Soul, one of the happiest songs of all time, for sure. It was their most notable single as well, rising to number 3 on the modern rock chart. Somehow it didn't break the top 100 chart, but here's what the Two Johns told me about it.
John had made the demo to Birdhouse. And it was really like a pretty powerful kind of demo, and you could tell that it had something really great there.
Part of it was like, it's got to be longer.
Well, right. It had to be. I mean, we if it had been the previous album, we probably would have been like, hey, it's a minute long.
It's done.
That's done.
You guys have that jump dancing thing that you do, and I remember me and my friends were a bunch of nerds, and so we were always trying to figure out how
Very easy dance.
How to mimic
people
that,
with no background in dance can master.
And then printing off the eyes and cutting them out and putting them on.
I think we sort of set ourselves up for people to, you could have the home TMBG kit. Yeah, exactly.
I want to remind you to get your Vintage Years Collections t-shirts. We're celebrating some of the great years of music. You can get it right up here or below. Also, make sure to get your tickets to Professor of Rock Live with John Fogerty, the man who wrote and sang all those classic Creedence Clearwater Revival songs. It's like, this is a ticketed event. It's like Inside the Actors Studio meets MTV Unplugged. There'll be stories and songs, and it's a very intimate evening. Come out. You can get your tickets right up here or below. Come see me. I'd love to see you after the show. All right, halfway through our countdown at number 5, I'm going to showcase one of my favorites, Heaven or Las Vegas by the euphoric Cocteau Twins. Heaven or Las Vegas, the Cocteau Twins' most successful album that came out of a period of intense personal turmoil. Elizabeth Fraser was navigating early motherhood while Robin Guthrie battled a serious drug problem, and somehow they forged a sound that felt otherworldly and beautiful amid the chaos. The title track for Heaven or Las Vegas was almost a paradox, a tender dreamlike creation born from pressure and strain, a temporary stability in the middle of upheaval. Domestic bliss is the heaven, while addiction is Las Vegas, because using drugs is like gambling with your very life. Now, Elizabeth Fraser's voice is one of the most intriguing voices in history. Sometimes you just couldn't make out what she was singing, but you didn't care because it was so breathtaking. It's amazing. Even with the deep personal ties behind the song, though, Fraser's voice on Heaven or Las Vegas remains cryptic enough that invites interpretation more through mood than literal meaning. Liz's vocals were famously opaque on all the Cocteau Twins tracks, though. The romantic relationship between Liz and Robin, that lasted 13 years. But the intense volatility of their time together, it took its toll on Robin. Not only were they working together as musical artists, she was also raising a child with Robin while he had a serious drug and alcohol problem. Now, Liz had a nervous breakdown in 1993 as well. Cocteau Twins officially broke up less than 4 years later, leaving what would have been the band's 9th studio album totally unfinished. Heaven or Las Vegas was an artistic and commercial zenith for the band for sure. As a single, it reached number 9 on the alternative rock chart. Of course, it didn't make the Billboard Hot 100 survey. I've always described Elizabeth Fraser's voice as being otherworldly, not of this world. I'm definitely not the only one that thinks this way. Their sound is celestial. In 2023, the International Astronomical Union named an asteroid after her, changing asteroid 2013 TF19 to 622398 Fraser. All right, coming in at number 4 on our non-hits countdown of 1990, I got a great one. Depeche Mode with "A World in My Eyes." DM is definitely one of the super groups of the post-punk new wave era. They've had 6 top 40 hits on the Billboard Hot 100. Their album Violator was by far their biggest seller. It's moved over 13 million units around the world. It's a perfect album. Now, the 4th single released from Violator was an intriguing non-hit from 1990, like I said, "World in My Eyes."
Let me take you on a trip around the world.
"World in My Eyes" definitely embodies Depeche Mode's embrace of dance culture with the dose of hedonism, crafted as a premier dance track with pristine synthetic textures. It's often cited as a pure synth song, built to be as synthetic as possible with dense electronic percussion, vintage rhythm machines, and driving synth lines front and center here. Depeche Mode keyboardist Andy Fletcher, who sadly passed away in 2022, he said, "World in My Eyes" shows how the band could bring people together from all corners of the world to share their music. So the original demo for "World in My Eyes" had a much faster tempo, perhaps more of an obvious dance track. Now, we're recording in Milan for Violator. Dave Gahan, he stepped out for a couple of days, the singer, and in his absence, Martin Gore, Alan Wilder, and Flood reshaped the track into something distinctly moody and atmospheric and slower. When David returned from his trip, he was already a little testy because he was jet lagged, but his first reaction was shock when he listened to the new, slower, more introspective version of the song.
Let me show you the world in my eyes.
Dave was very vocal about his dislike for the updated version. He was livid. He told his bandmates they'd blown it. They'd ruined the song. By the end of the day, though, his mind had shifted. He heard the new direction as the stronger choice. I mean, when he was recording in the studio, the vibe, it just clicked with the lyrics, which are about exploring the inner world and feeling utterly at ease with someone to the point where words become unnecessary. And his vocal was the main attraction, in my opinion. He makes this song his own. "World in My Eyes" was popular in the clubs as Depeche Mode, they were always popular in the clubs. The single reached number 3 on the Billboard Dance Single Chart, but it flatlined at number 52 on the Billboard Hot 100. And it's weird because it's a very 1990s-esque song.
Thank you!
All right, let's turn the spotlight on our non-hits countdown to number 3, a track that starts off with a dog barking. I got "Been Caught Stealing" by Jane's Addiction. Been Caught Stealing, it tells a true story about a little kid who loved stealing and got busted in a Queens candy store when he was 5 years old, sneaking off with a Pensy Pinky ball, which is a little rubber ball that kids use for racquetball or handball. Perry Farrell, Jane's Addiction's frontman, he came clean with me about this non-hit. Young Perry was chided by the store manager and his parents, but the thrill of getting away with it kept him shoplifting into his teens. Here's what he told me about it.
I took my first try at stealing when I was 5, stealing the Pensy Pinky. And I got caught right away. That sucked. I got in trouble with my parents, they told on me. Man, I was always getting in trouble. I was just thinking about that the other day. I had a crime record, a minor crime record. Yeah. Then I had an adult crime record until I started, making it. And then it became fun to I became a bit of a klepto. Everywhere I would go, I just had to steal something. And I went out on the road. I started stealing from gift stores and just buying little weird things. Like when you're a punk rock kid, you can dress and get weird things. Like I remember one time they arrested me as I stole, when you go on airplanes and the ladies try to show you how to buckle up your seat.
Yeah.
So I thought that seatbelt would make a cool belt, you know? So I stole the thing, and then I got arrested at the airport for stealing a practice seatbelt. I was going to wear that, you know, on stage.
Yeah. The famous opening bark in Jane's Addiction's Been Caught Stealing actually came from Annie, who was Perry Farrell's rescue dog. She went wild in the studio while Perry was recording vocals, and she just started barking out of nowhere. He told me, I was in the booth with the headphones on and Annie starts just barking. The whole thing wasn't planned, but after the playback, the band really loved the barking. It struck them as kind of cool and edgy and fun, and so they kept it. And they re-recorded the intro to make it sound more intentional. They timed the barks to fit the song's melody. Been Caught Stealing is one of a handful of songs that include the sound of a dog barking in the recording. Other notable tracks that have that are, of course, Dogs by Pink Floyd, Doing Time by Sublime, there's Sure Shot by Beastie Boys, and of course, Hey Bulldog by the Beatles. Been Caught Stealing was a #1 track in alternative rock, but it was a complete no-show on the Billboard Hot 100. But, it didn't stop Jane's Addiction from becoming one of the most influential bands of the time. It is so sad what happened to Jane's Addiction. The band had that onstage fight in, September 2024, when Perry Farrell attacked guitarist Dave Navarro. And this was in the middle of a show. And then the next day, the tour was canceled. Following the altercation. Dave Navarro and Eric Avery and Stephen Perkins actually filed lawsuits against Perry Farrell citing assault and emotional distress. And Perry countered with his own suit citing bullying. A year later, in December 2025, the band issued apologies to the public, and they confirmed their breakup for good. All right, we're down to our top 2, and I'm telling you, you're going to love the #1 pick. It's one of the biggest songs in classic rock history by a hard rock band. Oh, man. But first, our number 2. 1990 was a pivotal year for Robert Smith and The Cure, and it led to the recording and release of one of their best songs, Never Enough.
However much I push it down, it's never enough.
After the unprecedented success of the Disintegration LP in 1989, Robert Smith felt the heat for sure. Robert and his band The Cure was scrambling to come up with new material for their 1990 remix album Mixed Up that could keep the momentum of Disintegration going. The 3 studio days devoted to recording for Mixed Up yielded songs that Robert called total crap. And out of sheer frustration, Robert wrote Never Enough in a single night as a response to that creative impasse. And he told the band the next day, we're going to record this right now. Never Enough turned out to be a real pivot for The Cure. Robert said the track pushed the band back toward their guitar-driven roots, sparking a shift away from the synth-heavy, moody textures that defined Disintegration to more of a rock track, straight-ahead rock. It set the stage for the heavier, more rock-oriented direction that would come with the Wish album that happened just a few years later in '92. Robert Smith describes Never Enough as a song that captures the sense that nothing ever feels like enough, no matter what you do. There's going to be always something more that you think you need to do, or you'd stop if there wasn't. That restless, never satisfied impulse is what Never Enough is all about. It helped redefine The Cure's sound for a new era. Never Enough rose to the top of the alternative chart, but it faded in the outer reaches of the Billboard Hot 100, halting at number 72, which is why it's an awesome song. All right, we're at the #1 spot, and as I announce this one, I know that nobody's going to argue with my choice here. One of the greatest pump-you-up anthems in the history of this planet, and it wasn't a hit. Shockingly, it didn't even break the top 40, didn't break the Hot 100. All these years later, it actually has 4 times as many streams as any hit from 1990 with about 6 billion. Talking about Thunderstruck by AC/DC. Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Now, AC/DC has only had 3 singles that actually made the Billboard Top 40. Thunderstruck is not one of them. Yet Thunderstruck is one of the biggest comeback anthems of all time. And it all started with a little bit of guitar warm-up wizardry from Angus Young. He kicked off with a flashy riff It was actually a training exercise. It was nothing. It was a studio trick he picked up from his older brother, George Young, who produced some of AC/DC's early albums. Of course, was in the band the Easy Beats. So brother Malcolm Young heard Angus's playing that exercise, and he thought it deserved a proper thunderous groove to back it up, and that's where it came from. Even though the riff, it sounds like it could blow the speakers apart, Angus actually played the opening line using only his index finger. Now that signature chant of thunder in Thunderstruck, the one that really gives the track its stadium-sized power, the band themselves sparked the call and response vibe, and they just did it. They just started calling it out together and singing it together. It's what makes the studio cut feel so live and urgent, like you're right there in the middle of the crowd. You may have heard the myth that Thunderstruck was about a harrowing plane ride during a storm. Fans have sometimes linked the song to an actual lightning strike on a plane, but that actually didn't happen. Angus revealed that the truth is more grounded in energy and emotion. With Thunderstruck, the band aimed for something electrifying, a wild, high-octane feeling they could translate into a story about blazing nights and intense experiences, with the idea being struck by something powerful as that through line. But they just made it up. The song was the lead single from their 1990 album, The Razor's Edge, which is an expression that Australians call the menacing dark clouds of an approaching storm. Speaking of hits, though, the band's biggest hit ever, that came from this album. It's Money Talks. It hit number 23. That's the best they did. The band hasn't played that one live in decades, but they play Thunderstruck every night. Thunderstruck was designed to sound like a massive high-voltage return to form, which succeeded and reestablished in their 90s relevance. Thunderstruck, it certainly achieved that legacy. Makes it even more astonishing that it didn't make the Billboard Hot 100 back in 1990. Maybe it would have charted, but it was released as, it wasn't a physical commercial single. It was a promotional single only in the US, making it ineligible by Billboard's rules. Billboard actually did change that. They allowed non-singles to chart, but it wouldn't happen until 1998. So AC/DC gets our number one pick for 1990, and compared to the actual biggest hit of 1990, which was Wilson Phillips' Hold On.
Is it really fair to feel this way inside?
Decades later, Thunderstruck outstreams it by almost 5 billion streams. Oh man, there you go. AC/DC, Rock and Roll Never Dies. Hope you enjoyed our non-hits of 1990, honoring them for their artistic merit and their longevity. Let's have a great discussion below. What are your memories of these songs? What do you think about AC/DC versus Wilson Phillips? Wilson Phillips, Mariah Carey, these were some of the big songs of 1990. They don't compare to AC/DC's Thunderstruck, which is one of the biggest classic rock songs of all time. Oh man, it's still going. It's a stadium anthem, and that's our number one pick. Leave us a comment. Let us know your memories. Let's have a great discussion below celebrating these great non-hits of 1990. Again, I think they're better than the actual number one hits from that year. Let me know what you think. Let's have a good discussion below. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe. We'd love to have you as part of our community. Make sure to get your tickets to Professor of Rock Live, John Fogerty. It's going to be a great night. We'll love to see you there. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.